What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show. We are back with myself, Huzaifa, and Justin Guitar Hero James. If you are one of our kind of growing regulars, welcome back. And if you're new to the show, welcome as well. We are very excited. We got a really fun show today because we're coming up on the heels of UFC 308, which we said in a previous show, or I said in a previous show. You might agree or disagree that it's going to be the best card of the year. And actually now it's funny, I look back at 307 and just because of how incredible and amazing that main event was, I don't know. That might be unbeatable. I have fonder. I look back at 307. I don't know. I want to know if you agree or disagree. I look back at UFC 307 with more fondness and a greater appreciation for it than even UFC 300. So I think Alex Pereira, in my mind, has almost eclipsed everybody with the exception of Khamzat Chimaev, in my mind personally. But like, how do you feel about it? Are you feeling like 307 is now the card to beat, or do you still feel like 300 is the best?
300 to me is the best. I mean, I thought the main event for 307 was incredible, and that those fights are not a dime a dozen. They are few and far between. But the rest of the card wasn't incredible. Kayla Harrison, I thought, was a snooze fest. You're a minus 1,200 favorite or a minus 1,000 favorite, and you're putting a boring decision together. Wasn't thrilled about it. I mean, and all the other like Jose Aldo snooze fest, and it wasn't Jose's fault. Mario held him against the fence, but it was a snooze fest. But again, the main event made up for it. I thought it was a good card because of the main event, but besides the main event, nothing really jumps at me. It's like, wow, that was an incredible card.
I know, and I agree. And I guess that's the interesting question is like, was the main event so powerful in your mind that it eclipsed everything else? And I think most people agree with you that it does not, and nor should it. But to me, I guess I don't know. It gave me such an emotional reaction that I'm like, wow, I didn't even feel like that about the Holloway Gaethje fight. I really didn't. Like that. The fight between Alex Pereira and guys, Turan, welcome. I see you're throwing in some comments. I want to address your comments in a second, but tell me if you agree or disagree with me in the comments. But there's when I think of like the best song in the world, for me personally, it's not even my genre or like the type of stuff that I usually like to listen to. But there's this song called Last Goodbye by Jeff Buckley. And the reason why I think it's like the best song I've ever heard, even though I don't listen to it all the time, is because of the arc and the progression and sort of like the story it tells is like this perfect crescendo and then it dies down. I love every part about it. The way it begins, the middle, the end, like the change up, all of that. And to me, the Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree fight was it was like a perfect song. It was like he faces adversity. He's losing in the first two rounds. He's getting rocked, and then he pulls it together. He makes an adjustment, right? I mean, it's literally like a movie. He made an adjustment, came out in round three, still arguable. Some people even think Khalil still won round three. I don't think so, but then kind of started to put it together in the last minutes, and then was just like a machine in round four. And we just saw the craziest display of heart on the side of Khalil Roundtree and this brilliant striking performance by Alex Pereira, just coming out dominant, triumphant, and then the crowd just erupts like this perfect story arc. So that's why to me it's just so powerful, and I feel like it eclipses everything else. But I think I'm in the minority. Anyways, that's all. That's all I want to say about that. We're gonna talk more about Alex Pereira at the end of the show, but Turan says, by the way, one of the things he mentioned, 299 was good. Yeah, this is the best year in the history of the UFC. 299 with Sean O'Malley was amazing. And now Turan says a very interesting comment. I think Ilia's under Holloway's skin. I can tell because of his body language. So I love this comment, and I agree as well. And the reason why I want to showcase this comment is because today is going to be largely a discussion of UFC 308, which is around the corner. And we are so excited for this card. We're going to start right off the bat with this Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway matchup. Now, there's some notable things to talk about because MMA Guru in particular, coming back to him, sorry. But no, I know some of the stuff you're actually it's kind of growing on you. So maybe turning a corner slightly. But MMA Guru has been saying for a long time that we need the face-offs again. We need the 1v1 interviews where both guys are on there and they kind of get to go back and forth and draw a little bit at each other and see if something comes out of it that intrigues fans. And it was finally done. And it was done via Zoom, not in person, but still pretty cool. And they had a face-to-face and a back and forth. And I actually thought this was incredible. What did you think of it when you watched it? Because I'm going to show some clips in a second, but was it entertaining to you, or were you like, it's not that interesting?
It's not that interesting to me is because you're talking to Max Holloway. You're talking about arguably the greatest featherweight of all time. And for someone like Ilia Topuria, who's an incredible fighter, he beat Volk. That's his stamp, in his career right now of beating, Volkanovski, which is an incredible feat. But time and time again, Max Holloway's been tested. He didn't fight Volk one time. He fought him 3 times. He's fought Justin Gaethje. He's fought fucking he just fought what's his name? Jeez, the King of Rio. Why can't I think of his name? He just fought last weekend.
Jose Aldo?
When
No.
you are someone like Ilia Topuria, Jose Aldo, yeah. When you're Ilia Topuria and you've had one, solidifying moment in your career, and you're talking shit to somebody like the God, the GOAT, Max Holloway, I just don't like it. It's like, you got to earn your stripes. And then I'm just not a big Ilia Topuria fan, and I'll tell you when I started not to be. It's when he demanded that he gets a BMF shot, and Max is like, well, that's not a very BMF thing to say. And that really immediately turned me off. I mean, I get it. He's a great fighter. He's this, he's that. But there's sometimes when a fighter says something that's so cringy that, oh, you better put up the BMF title. It's like, well, that's not really what a BMF would say. The BMF, I don't know, man. I'm not a big Ilia Topuria fan. I think he's an incredible fighter. But he has to earn his stripes. Like I said, he has an incredible moment. He knocked out Alexander Volkanovski at one point, the pound for pound best fighter in the world. And that's incredible. But again, he was coming off a big knockout off Islam after fighting Islam twice. I don't know, man. And I know he's great. I just don't like to see like this young kid stepping up to Max Holloway, man. When you talk about Max Holloway, he's humble, he's respectful, he's a fucking badass. Ilya's like, oh, well, hey, have that energy and in the first 10 seconds come out and do this. And it's like, bro, shut the fuck up, man. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to get behind these younger kids that, they step up to the ring and they're trying to talk to somebody that's done so much. He's been so credible for so many years. He doesn't have one big one under his belt. He doesn't have two big wins under his belt. He doesn't have 3 big wins under his belt. His whole career, his whole voyage in the UFC is one big staple and one big fight after big fight after big fight. Ilia Topuria hasn't earned his stripes yet to talk shit to Max Holloway.
Okay, I totally get that, and I'm with you. And I do like to see some respect between the fighters, and this does seem a little bit disrespectful and out of place. But I do think it's making you feel an emotion, and I think whatever you want to say about whether or not it's right or wrong what Ilia is doing, I think he's doing it from an authentic place. I don't think he's trying to put on an act, which I love. I think he's being himself. He is a natural shit talker. He likes to get under people's skin. And so whatever you want to say, it's creating an emotion, and it's actually putting a lot of pressure on him, because think about it. And I'm going to play some of these clips in a second, but he's putting pressure on himself because he is so confident and so sure that not only is he going to win, but he's going to be the first person ever to knock Max Holloway out. And I got to say, when the stakes are raised like that, it's all about, I've said this before. Well, one of the main components that makes a fight exciting is the stakes attached to it. And this feels like it already had crazy high stakes, but now Ilia's throwing on top of that and putting all this pressure on himself. So I personally love it. Now we're going to take a look back first. And this is something that I think is important to note, that Ilia has clearly been working on his English. And if we go back, this is an old clip from when it was the presser when Paddy Pimblett was fighting what's this guy's name? Jordan. I can't remember what the controversial fight when he lost.
Levitt.
Not Jordan Levitt. Sorry, not Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, not Jordan. Sorry, Jared Gordon. So this is when he was scheduled to fight Jared Gordon, and Ilia and Paddy already had that big kind of instance where Paddy threw a hand sanitizer bottle at Ilia. That happened previously, and so they still hated each other. So listen to this exchange, and then I'm going to show you the exchanges with Max Holloway. So check this out.
Backstage?
What you said?
Has it been difficult being around Paddy backstage?
I haven't seen him, lad. I haven't seen him all week. The UFC have kept us apart.
When he see me coming,
because when I saw him last time, he got a hand sanitizer bottle bounced off his foot.
I don't understand you anything. Back in the flouty, like what?
Hand sanitizer, boy!
Fuck you, fucking Russian. Yeah. You want to talk to me
knows
like
you by your name, lad. You're known as hand sanitizer, boy. You little mongrel.
Now look, he's having a hard time, and honestly, it's kind of unfair because English is his second language, right? So he's doing the best he can. But he's obviously having a hard time kind of communicating and keeping up with Paddy, and Paddy's kind of roasting him, whatever. Okay. Now we're gonna go through these clips where he's going against Max Holloway, and once again, you can just see like his smack talking. I feel like has gotten really, really good, and he's getting under his skin. Whatever you want to say, whether it's disrespectful or not, but I feel like it's effective. So let me get your thoughts. I want to play this clip, and guys, let us know in the comments too what you think. If this got you excited, like it did get me excited. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. Here we go.
I've been a huge fan of you. I followed your entire career as a fan. You've been a great father, of course, yes.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say the
rivals, yes. I was in his position to get Jose Aldo. Now we're here.
October 26th, after the October 26th, maybe you will become my fan. Maybe you will start learning from me.
I mean, I feel like that's pretty good. I feel like that's pretty good. He's basically saying, yeah, you're a fan, and he's just saying like, yeah, I am a fan, but not for long. And then maybe we're gonna flip it, and you're gonna be a fan of me. Hold on, let me play one more clip. And as it gets deeper, I feel like Ilia kind of gets harsher on Max. So check this out.
Bro, I was so bored watching that fight.
He's talking about the Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway fight. So listen.
So,
so he was like,
now that just took all credibility away from everything he's about to say.
When he says boring, just listen to what he said. Just listen to what he said here.
The thing excited about that fight was the last 10 seconds, to be honest. But I didn't see any technique in that fight. I didn't see any strategy. I didn't see any fucking thing. I just saw a bar fight, to be honest. It was very spectacular for the fans, but for me as a professional, it was I don't know, not something very impressive, to be honest, because you can impress everyone, but you know the technique behind that knockout, and it was zero. Just
I mean, okay, okay, wait. I want to hear your thoughts right off the bat, because he is a phenomenal fighter, amazing striking. He is a master of his domain. But yeah, let me hear your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts.
Listen, to say, yeah, it looked like a bar fight, but guess what? Max Holloway set up that knockout shot, and this is why dude, Ilia Topuria would whoop my ass. He'd whoop me and you ass at the same time. Like, I'm not trying to put him down as a fighter, but bro, I'm not impressive. Like, it's a perfect combination that you practice. He squats down, he goes to body. Justin Gaethje goes to block his body, comes over top of the overhand. It was a great technical piece. Justin Gaethje's winging. He's winging for Max's head. So if you guys are eye to eye and someone's winging for your head, what do? You squat low. And guess what? Your head's not there anymore. And that's exactly what Max did. Justin Gaethje wanted the knockout. You can see him swinging for his head. Max ducks his body, goes to the body on Justin, and then throws that overhand and clips him. Like, to say it's not a technical shot is just asinine. And unfortunately, when I hear things like that, it just takes all credibility from everything you're saying. Because, I mean, that's like me saying to you, like, hey, bro, like, anytime there's a multiplication and I see, 60, multiplied by 1 and it's 60 every time, but it shouldn't be, and that's just stupid. You'd be like, what do you mean? That's math. And when it's the same thing with MMA. It's like, for him to say that isn't technique it just takes all credibility for everything else he's saying to me.
Okay, fair enough. That's actually really interesting perspective, because I was listening to it. Of course, it does seem a little bizarre, because that's one of the favorite fights of the year, maybe number 1, maybe number 2. So it is a little bizarre. But then I listened to him, and he says it with such confidence and such assuredness. So I'm like, maybe there's something to it. Maybe he's seeing it at a different level. But that's really good perspective, and that's why I want to get your opinion. All right, 2 other quick clips I want to show you, and then we're going to, of course, talk about the fight and what we think we're going to see going down. And I'm going to give my thoughts also from like a psychological standpoint. I'm picking Ilia. I picked Ilia before, but I'm really, really picking Ilia now, even though it's not necessarily what I want to have happen, but that's what I'm feeling. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Okay, let me play these last 2 clips.
Yeah, show up and I'm going to do the rest. Don't worry.
We find out, brother.
I already know what's going to happen. The difference between me and you, it's that you need to see to believe. I first of all believe, and then I see. That's the difference between us.
Good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like, I do think it's also pretty funny how Max responds back to me. He's like, great. Well, if that's how you feel, wonderful. Okay, last clip here. We're going to do the last one. 1 second. And then we're going to talk it over and figure out our fight predictions.
Ilia is the new generation, like everybody been saying.
You were forced to fight me.
Here,
you were forced to fight me. You didn't want to fight me. You were forced to fight me.
You.
Yeah, because you asked to fight with Michael Chandler. You asked to fight with Conor McChicken. You asked to fight with too many fighters because you were trying to avoid me.
Who told you this? Who told you this? Who told you this, my friend? Who told you this? Exactly. Shut up. You're lying. This guy's a liar.
I'm a liar. I'm a
Yeah.
liar.
Yeah. I asked for you. I asked for
Look
nobody
to
else.
my
I asked for
eyes.
Ilia
Look into
Topuria.
my eyes. I'm a
Look
liar.
at your guys right here, brother.
Yeah.
What? What's up?
You are the one who
What's
were
up?
trying to avoid the fight. You were
How?
the one. Oh, saying no. You
How?
asked
Please
many
explain.
times
Explain how.
about different fighters. You said to the UFC, I want to fight with Mike Chandler. I want to fight with
I
Carmack Chicken.
never
I
ever
want to
asked to
fight
fight Michael
with
Chandler.
this
Why
and
would I
that.
fight him? Why would I ask to fight him?
Everyone,
Why
but
would I
not
ask to
me.
fight him? Come on.
What?
You were the first guy I asked for. I want Ilia I want the easiest fight.
Yeah,
I want
that's
Ilia
fucked up.
Topuria.
The
That's what I
easiest fight.
said.
Yeah. The easiest fight. Whoa.
Okay, we're gonna stop it there. Wait, Justin, I feel like you're cringing hardcore right now. Okay, let's hear it.
It's so cringy because Max Holloway wants to be the champ. Why would he fight fucking Mike Chandler? Why would he ask to fight Mike Chandler after knocking out Justin Gaethje? Mike Chandler's like 2-3 in his last 5. He's not
Right.
in any title contention whatsoever. Why
Yeah.
why would he ask to fight Max Holloway? He's becoming one of my favorite fighters of all time. And why would he wants to be the champ? He doesn't want to beat Mike Chandler, and as tough as Mike Chandler is, he's irrelevant in title contention right now. I mean, he was going to fight Conor McGregor, who's lost like 3 fights in a row. Like Max Holloway wants to be the champ. He wants to fight the champ. It doesn't matter if it's Ilia, it doesn't matter if it's Volk, it doesn't matter if it's fucking Habib. Like, he wants to fight the #1 guy. He doesn't get off on fighting these fucking chumps. So for Ilia to say that, he's 100% lying. He did not try to avoid that fight. It's just not the kind of guy Max is. And it's just cringy to me when guys are like, oh, you're scared. Listen, Max Holloway has shown up time and time repeating. And, in math terms, that's ... You have a fucking number. We're repeating, motherfucker. Like, he shows up every single time and fights the baddest guy every single time. And if Ilia Topuria is the champ, that's who he wants to fight. So for him just to say this, like, I liked Ilia, and then he said the BMF thing, and then I started to not like him. And then he said something else, and it's just cringy to me, man. I love good shit talk. I fucking love good shit talk. But this is just asinine, and this is just not good shit talk. And I'm kind of already sick of hearing about it. I hope Max goes in there, cleans this guy's clock, takes him into deep waters, makes him drown, knocks this motherfucker out, and he never comes back. Spain needs to be proud because this is their first champion. And when I went over and I competed in Spain a couple months ago, everyone is raving about Ilia. Everyone is freaking, like Ilia Topuria, like, it's fucking great because their whole country can get behind this guy, and he should be very proud of that. But guess what? Know your place. And telling the public that Max Holloway is afraid, bro, come on, man. Come on. Nobody in the UFC is afraid of anybody. It's the baddest people on the planet. There's only one person that's afraid of fighters in the UFC, and that's Colby Covington. And it's not Max fucking Holloway. And I just hate when fighters are like, oh, he's afraid. Nobody's afraid of anybody. You can put me
Yeah.
against Ilia Topuria. Like, I'm not afraid. I'm not saying I'm going to go and beat him, but I'm not afraid of him. I'm not afraid of no man. Anybody that's fighting at that high of a level that's been fighting that, nobody's afraid of anybody, man. And I hate when people are like, oh, you're scared. Oh, man, I'm just so annoyed. Fuck.
That's a fair point, and I've heard a lot of people say that exact same thing, that it's stupid to ever say. Even Ariel Helwani and the people on his show, even though they're not fighters themselves, but they always make sure to respect fighters and recognize, like, nobody's really scared of anybody. Maybe you're more inclined to fight somebody else versus, a different person. But no, I think you're right. Okay, fair enough. And if I feel like you're really pulling for Max Holloway, but I will say this: maybe some of the things he's saying are not entirely true, and he's just trying to.
Wait, hold on. One more thing. Sorry, Josefa, but
Why is he
carrying around the BMF belt? Why is he carrying around a BMF belt? Like, he went. Think about it. He went to the store and bought that belt. Like, he bought it.
He did.
Like, he didn't earn that. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's cringy as fuck to me. Can you imagine me doing an interview and wearing a UFC belt? Like, every time we go and I'm fucking, I'm the UFC, like, I'm the champ. Like, what? What is this?
Yeah.
What is this nonsense?
Okay, I get it. It is a little silly and it's a little childish, but I think I think it's serving the purpose of getting under Max Holloway's skin, right? So I'll put it like this. It may be cringy, it may be silly, it may be a little bit inaccurate in terms of the things he's saying, but I think he's making the build-up interesting. He's definitely pissing Max Holloway off, which, not saying I like it or don't like that per se, but I think it makes it interesting. And also it puts a lot of pressure on him. Again, if he loses, it's going to be that much worse for him and that much better for Max Holloway. So all I'll say in conclusion is, whether or not people like it or dislike it, I think it makes the fight a heck of a lot more interesting. I'm excited to see what happens. So I was already pretty much at a 10 out of 10 for this. So maybe I'm at like a 10.5 out of 10 or even an 11 out of 10. So let's see what happens. But I gotta say, it sounds like you're going with Max Holloway. Man, even if we might find some of the things that Ilia is saying to be annoying or cringy or whatever, he just seems to be brimming with confidence. On top of that, he had such a masterful performance against Alexander Volkanovski. And I know we can't necessarily apply that to Max Holloway, but I just feel like, man, to talk this way and to be this confident and to troll somebody who's such an established champ, I just feel like it indicates that he is highly confident and there's reason behind that confidence. So that's where I'm going. I do feel like Ilia is going to get it done. So I guess we'll see. And we have a difference of opinion, but that's always fun. So we'll see who's right as that unfolds. By the way, we got some comments. Pern is back in the mix. He says, evening, people. What's up, Pern? Great to see you. And Teron says, I'm with you, Justin. I want to see Ilia get humbled by Holloway. So I'm excited either way. Again, as I mentioned before, the storyline in either case is beautiful, is brilliant. Maybe Max wins and he rematches Volk. Maybe he moves up and tries to be a double champ. Who knows, right? There's so many interesting things. And conversely, if Ilia wins, there's a lot of interesting storylines as well. So let's see what happens. But now we move on to the real main event of 308, Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev, which I think has got to be easily, there's no comparison, the most anticipated co-main event of the entire year, hands down, without a doubt. People are very excited to see Khamzat Chimaev get back in there, and people always love Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker came off of that amazing victory against Aleskarov, I believe is his last name, but a really, really dangerous guy. I think that victory is going to age very, very well as Ikram continues in his career. We're going to see how dominant he is, I believe. But anyways, now the time is nearly here. We're almost ready. Khamzat Chimaev. And by the way, Khamzat Chimaev has been saying that he has now changed up his training. I guess apparently admitting that he used to overtrain. It's why he used to get sick and injured so often. So he's changed it up, and now he's got his training dialed in. Justin, I think last time you said you're favoring Robert Whittaker. Does that news give you any change your mind or give you any pause? Or are you still feeling pretty confident that Robert Whittaker is going to get it done?
I'm not, it's a 50-50 fight, man. Robert Whittaker, if he shows up the way he did in his last fight, I don't see very many people beating him in the division. I still want to see Khamzat show up, man. I mean, dude, there's a lot of guys that overtrain, and for how much for how sick he's gotten in the past, I just don't. I mean, we've all overtrained. I don't know, man. It's this guy's had a problem getting to the cage. He's a great fighter. He's exciting. I like him a lot, man. I'm a fan of him too. But I want to see him in the cage. I want to see him step up. Like, we've been talking about this guy for years. The hype train has been behind him for years, and slowly but surely, at least for me, I know not for you, but for me, the hype is losing effect on me because every time he's put in a position to answer the hype, he's just falling short, or he's not showing up, or he's fighting, somebody on short notice where he's a huge favorite, like Usman. When he fought Usman, man, it was like on 7-day notice. Like, wasn't super thrilled about that. That's right. Am I quoting that right? Was it a short notice fight when he fought Usman?
It was short notice, more so for Usman. He was supposed to fight, I think, what's his name? The Brazilian guy, Borrachinho, the Eraser, Paulo Costa.
Oh, Paulo Costa.
And then Usman got subbed in. That's my recollection. Yeah.
I mean, I just think Robert is just going to be a different level of fighter than he's ever fought before. Dustin Burns and Khamzat was just an incredible fight. But now imagine Dustin Burns, imagine Robert Whittaker over Dustin. Yeah. Gilbert. I always say Dustin. I always say Dustin. It's all good. But yeah, Robert is a bigger fighter. He's a better striker. He has just as good wrestling defense. He's obviously, I don't think he's as good as grappler as Gilbert, but the size alone, I think, is going to be a problem. And I want Robert to win this fight. I know Khamzat's your favorite fighter, but I think Robert's going to derail the hype train in the cage for Khamzat Chimaev.
So I just looked at the odds, and as of right now, and I know the odds can always be affected by betting patterns and whatnot, so who knows what this really means, but it is very close, very, very close. Minus 200, though, for Chimaev. So I think it 2-1. What's that? 2-1?
I mean, he's still pretty big, pretty good size favorite.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to see, but this is going to be very exciting. And then if Khamzat does win, it's going to be really, really interesting in the division, because I believe as of now, my understanding is that Sean Strickland has again been promised the next title shot against Dricus du Plessis, but I would have to say almost certainly if Khamzat wins, he's going to be next in line to fight the winner of Sean Strickland versus Dricus, and that could go either way because that fight was so close last time. But speaking of which, Sean Strickland has had some pretty harsh things to say about Khamzat Chimaev lately. Have you seen these comments?
No, I have not. I just saw Sean today. I just talked to him today. I called him out about the comments he made about me,
What'd he
and
say?
he was rather playful. I was like, "Hey, man, what do you got to hate on me like that for?" He's like, "Listen, if I was you, I would have kicked that motherfucker right in the head." And I was like, "Hey," and this is what I swear to God. And there was a group of people around it. I swear to God, I said this. I said, "Hey, Sean, you can act all tough," and I poked him right on his chest. But I know somewhere deep down in there, you have a heart. He kind of just smiled and then went on to doing what he's doing.
So, by the way, if you guys don't know what Justin's talking about, a few weeks ago, Justin had a fight against a gentleman named Brian Chappell. Is that right? Is that his last name?
Yeah, that's
Brian
right.
Chappell?
That's correct.
And it was always his dream to fight a real UFC fighter. And so they had a fight, and he's training, but he's not like a trained professional by any means. And it was more just like kind of to help his dream come true. So Justin went in there, did his thing.
Brian has Down syndrome. And he's a bagger at Albertsons. And he met me at a fight at one day, and we're talking. He says it was always his dream to fight a UFC guy. And I told him, I was like, "Hey, if you train, I'll fight you." And he trained for 6 months, and we showed up and we did the damn thing.
Yeah, so it was really cool. He said it was the greatest day of his life. I've never seen somebody he was just on cloud 9 the entire night. It was a great thing. People loved it. It got like 1 million views or 2 million views on Instagram, something like that. It was really, really cool. And then that's why Sean was like, "Well, if I would have fought him, I would have head kicked him." Like, I don't think he really would have. No way. But anyways,
I don't think so either. That's the thing. I told Sean right to his face. I'm like, "Hey, you can act all hard, but you have a heart."
Yeah. Now, well, anyway, so what Sean said about Khamzat Chimaev is he said something like, "You sold yourself out for a dictator." He's talking about the Chechen dictator, of course. I'm blanking on his name right now, Kadyrov. Actually, and then Jesse on Fire did a story. I don't want to get too much into the politics of this. I really don't care, to be honest. But apparently the reason why I think Sean is saying this is Khamzat Chimaev is apparently married to the daughter of Kadyrov. So he is like enmeshed into that family. And we talk about the visa issues. Jesse made the point the last time that Khamzat fought in the U.S. was in Jacksonville. And that was right before Khamzat got married. And so it all adds up. He's now married to Kadyrov's daughter. And I mean, I would not comment one way or the other on his, like, more power to him. I don't even know much about Kadyrov, like whatever. But apparently that is probably why, this is what other people are theorizing, is that is why he's no longer welcome in the U.S. or having so many visa issues, because now he's family with Kadyrov. So anyways, I think that's what Sean was referencing. Whatever. But hey, if they do fight, they went from boys to, I guess, having some sort of beef, it appears. So I guess we'll see what happens. But I'm saying Khamzat Chimaev all the way. If I can put money on it, I will. I believe wholeheartedly that this is his fate and this is his destiny, and he is a born fighter. And that's a tough thing to say against Robert Whittaker, who is also it's such a beloved fighter. But I do believe he's going to get it done. So we'll see very soon, less than just over 2 weeks away. Pern says, Sean, silly about that. It was a great thing to do. Yeah, exactly. It's talking about your fight. Okay. Now we're moving on to another fight on this incredible card, Ankalaev versus Rakic. And this one also has quite some implications, because the winner of this fight, I think, is supposedly going to be next in line for Alex Pereira. Who knows? So he's now, I think, would you feel comfortable calling Alex Pereira the biggest star in the UFC, I guess, of active fighters?
Yeah, actually, yeah, definitely. I mean, he's definitely in the top 3 for sure, and I can't think of anybody else. I mean, you got Max Holloway. How do you compete with him? Especially off that, you have just so many stars. But as of right now, like, Alex Pereira has this image about him. He's like the Terminator, man. He comes in, he has a blank face, he doesn't say much. He goes in there and he's just terminating everybody. So yeah, I think that's a strong thing to say, and I can't agree with that as well.
I think what's happening now is what was happening back in the day with Conor, where he was transcending the sport. I think it's starting to happen with Alex Pereira, meaning if for people who don't watch the fight, like I told people to see if you can watch just the last fight, or specifically the last round of the last fight, if you're not an MMA fan, and see why it's the best sport on the planet. See why boxing doesn't even come close to mixed martial arts, or, traditional MMA. It's just not even comparable. I had people look at it and be like, holy smokes, that was crazy. So I think what's happening is Alex Pereira, now the next time his fight is announced, this is what I believe anyways. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that Alex guy is fighting again, who's insane with the knockouts. You know what? I'm going to check this. I'm going to check this one out, even though they might not know anybody else on the card. I feel like that's what used to happen and still happens to a large degree with Conor. So he's now getting to that level of transcendence. And yeah, it's going to be such a big deal. So coming back to this fight, the winner is going to fight Alex Pereira in the near term, and that's going to be a wild one. Now, we saw Rakic against Yuri Prochazka last time, put on a clinic in the first couple of rounds, eventually lost to Yuri, which was a bit surprising because he is so technical in his striking. But then we're going against Ankalaev, who a lot of people are mischaracterizing as a grappler. He is not a grappler. He's had some submission victories, but he's primarily a striker. Very rarely he shoots for takedowns. Now, he may do that against Pereira. Who knows? He might have that advantage or might want to utilize it. But point being, this is going to be a really interesting. This Rakic fight versus Ankalaev is going to be very interesting. Do you have any initial thoughts or preliminary feelings about how it's going to play out, or what we're going to see in this matchup?
I think this is going to be a banger, man. I don't think it's going to go to the ground. I see Ankalaev coming out and showing that he can strike. You know, something I saw that was pretty interesting is all these guys are talking about how they want to strike with Alex, and now they'll go toe-to-toe with him. And then Tom Aspinall comes on and goes, the first 10 seconds of the fight, I'm sprinting across the cage and putting him up in the cage and taking him down. Hey, man, I respect the honesty, man. And
yeah,
Ankalaev, he keeps going back and forth about how he's not a grappler and he's a striker. You know, Rakic is a striker as well, man. I think these guys are going to meet in the center and they're going to share some heavy shots.
So right now the odds are a -310 for Ankalaev, which seems a bit aggressive. I don't know, but maybe they know more than I do. I do think it's going to be an interesting striking match. I think Ankalaev is getting unfairly characterized. I think this is because the UFC hasn't made this matchup yet. He's getting unfairly characterized as like a grapple heavy style, which is just not the case. So
well, I think it's just because of his background, because of his nationality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a lot. Like if you have a Russian descent, you're a grappler and wrestler, and you know that's not always true, man. You look at like Shara Bullet. I think he's of Russian background.
Yes, he's from Dagestan.
Yeah, he's from exactly. Dagestan. So I think that some of these guys get the wrong rap. I'm not saying a bad rap. I'm saying the wrong rap. But you know, it's stereotype. You know, and stereotypes are typically right for the most part, but in this case, it's not.
Now, somebody was just talking about Alex Pereira and going against grapplers, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's untested. He's untested." And I can't remember who was saying this earlier in the week, but he's like, actually, he's not untested. And to say he's untested is an unfair characterization, because guess who the UFC threw Alex Pereira in against at light heavyweight? And we seem to forget. They immediately threw him against Jan Blachowicz. And you might say, okay, well, yeah, Blachowicz isn't that big of a grappler. Yeah, okay. But what did Blachowicz do against Israel Adesanya? He used a grapple heavy style. He pinned him to the ground. He held him down. And that's how he was able to win unanimous decision. He tried the same thing against Alex Pereira and he wasn't able to succeed. Now, maybe it's because of the strength differential, but maybe it's also a difference in terms of his ability for his, anti-grappling or takedown defense. So he has been slightly tested. I don't know, maybe not to the same extent as he will be with Ankalaev. But I thought it was a really interesting point that they were saying, hey, like this guy's he's already showed what he can do, and he's not just a purely one-dimensional fighter. He's got a lot to his game. What do you think about that? Do you feel like that was already a pretty good test, and people are making too much out of, oh my God, Ankalaev is going to be his kryptonite?
You know, it's a tough call, man. You know, that's the thing. Everybody in the UFC, when you're fighting that high of a level, we can do everything. We can strike, we can grapple, we can wrestle. It's just implementing that game plan and taking it to Alex Pereira. Really, like my buddy Aaron, that he's like, why don't guys just rush in and take him down? That's all they have to do. That's all they have to do. Like, Ankalaev is just going to rush in and take him down, and that's going to be a true test. It's like, dude, and I'm speaking from experience. I have a wrestling background. I feel very confident on the ground, but it's very hard, especially with this new generation of kickboxers and this new generation of fighters, just to rush in and take them down. Remember, you got to avoid teep kicks. You got to avoid knees to the body, knees to the head. Like, if you overcommit on a shot and you eat a knee to the body, the fight's over. If you overcommit on a shot and eat a knee to the head, the fight's over. And you don't think Alex is thinking of these things. You don't think he's looking to time these shots. And that's where I get guys like my buddy Aaron, like, he just doesn't know. Oh, it's easy. All you have to do is this. It's like, all right, well, if it's that easy, why isn't anybody doing it? Because if they do it and they win, they're the UFC champion.
Right. You know what would be incredible, and somebody that's been calling for the Alex Pereira fight like crazy is Khamzat Chimaev. I didn't even think about that, but imagine if Khamzat goes in there, gets the middleweight belt, and then moves up to light heavyweight. That would be a super fight. That people only reason why people aren't talking about that is because Khamzat Chimaev hasn't been active for so long. And also, guys, check out a video that Weasel did. He made a video about fighters not being active enough to really build their momentum. He makes a point about how Khamzat Chimaev became a superstar, having 5 fights in a very short period of time. And that's when he really, obviously, it was also his finishes and his style and his dominance and all that stuff. But he just pointed this out as a general issue in the UFC. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do about it. But you can clearly see on the other side, somebody like Alex Pereira, why is he shot to superstardom? Obviously, he's very talented. But like the amount of fights and the amount of crazy finishes he's had in the last few months has been unparalleled, and we see the results. Anyways, all right, let's move it on. Speaking of Dagestani fighters that actually have tremendous striking, we're coming back to Shara Bullet. So I said Shara Bullet returns because he's also on this UFC 308 Abu Dhabi card, but I don't really know too much about his opponent, so I didn't put his opponent down. I'll tell you the odds though right now. But we are very excited to see Shara Bullet return because I love his striking. I think he's incredible. I think people have been criticizing him for being a bit one-dimensional, but again, I guess we'll have to see. Let me see the odds right now. Have you heard? Here, wait. Let me tell you who he's fighting because you might have heard of this guy. Give me 1 second. It is Armin Petrosian, who's 9-3. Have you heard of him?
Never heard of him.
Okay. Let me just see.
I haven't heard of anybody Sarah's fought so far. Like every time he fights, he's a fucking minus 1,000 favorite, and I've never heard of any opponent. It just makes me wonder, like, why the UFC is setting him up for so much success. I'm unsure of it.
I mean, I think he's got the component. Oh wait, he's only minus 196.
Oh, that's not. He's not a huge favorite then. Yeah, he's not a huge.
Not favorite at all. Wait, I'm very shocked. Oh my God, minus 174. And Armin is plus 136. Holy smoke. Okay, so maybe this is meant to be a really big first challenge because I think he was pretty heavily favored on the. I mean, he just annihilated the guy last time, if I remember correctly. It was a short. It was a what's it called, a replacement fighter, short notice. But yeah, so I don't know. This will be an interesting fight. Sorry, Armin Petrosian. I apologize not knowing more about you, but I don't know too much about his style or anything. I'm just excited to see Shara Bullet go in and dominate. He's such a fascinating fighter. His striking is unbelievable, incredible. Some of the stuff, his kicks are so wild. And obviously he fights with only one eye, which is even more insane to have that level of depth perception and skill and accuracy. But yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to see him come back? Is he somebody that you are a big fan of or not so much? Not so much?
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I think it's awesome what he's doing. You know, being essentially blind in one eye. I think that's incredible. Reminds me a lot of my coach, you know, Roman, and just talk. Thing that, you know, attracts me. I was having this conversation this morning. The thing that attracts me to fighters isn't how often they win. It's how often they battle through perseverance and they still find a way. Because, you know, in the fitness business, and I'm sure in the math business as well. Am I frozen?
No,
okay.
You're good.
Yeah. In the fitness business, you know, it's everybody I work with, you know, civilians, athletes, everyone always has excuses of why they can't do things, man. Oh, my back, or this. Oh, I had an injury when I was in high school, so I can't do this. But to see guys like him, this guy's fucking blind in one eye. He makes no excuses. He shows up. He puts on an incredible show. That's what attracts me to fighters. The wins and losses, you know, it's, and that's, you know, one thing I always wanted in my career. It's like, hey, listen, I'm not going to win every fight, but I want you guys to see, I go out on my fucking shield every time. I try to put on a fight for the fans every single time. And that's what attracts me to guys. And this guy's doing just that.
Well, it's the same with me as well. And what I tell people who are just regular folk like me, who are not fighters, one of the reasons why the sport is so special to me is because it gives me a lot of motivation. You see people go through whatever difficulties the regular folks like us just feel like we're going through on a day-to-day basis. I feel like from the stories I've heard from you and other fighters, it's 10x, right? I mean, we're talking about trying to come back and fight for your life when you have a devastating shoulder injury. That's like, look at what's his name? TJ Dillashaw. His shoulder's getting dislocated in the middle of the fight and he's still signing up to fight and he's still not tapping out until the ref makes him tap out and get out of the fight. Or, you see Alex Pereira come back with a problematic toe injury. He also had a damaged rib and just go in there and start somebody and not be afraid. So you look at these challenges and obstacles that you would imagine are, for a normal person, are pretty much insurmountable. How can you do that? And you see them do it and then be victorious, not just going in there and showing up, but be victorious and having the mental fortitude to do so. And you can learn from that and adopt those mindsets. Listen to the stories, listen to them before they go in, after they go in, and learn from it, grow from it, and be a better person. So yeah, I'm with you, and I love to see that. Now, speaking of Alex Pereira, we're going to end the show with a little segment on Alex, who is now fast becoming, I think, everybody's favorite fighter. Here's my idea. I want to talk about this because Alex Pereira, as we already said, may already be the biggest star the UFC has currently as an active fighter. So that's excluding Conor McGregor. Let's say he's not really active until he steps back. But I think there's a way he could surpass Conor McGregor. Here's my proposal. He's gotten this confident, this popular, and this well-known purely on his exciting fight style and the frequency at which he fights, and just purely based on his ability in the sport. But he's literally silent. He's just like a statue that communicates more or less through a translator, and yet he's still ripped. No offense to Jamal Hill, but he still gave a really good rip to Jamal Hill at the last presser when he's like, oh yeah, Jamal Hill was young. He's like, oh yeah. And he got a smile on his face. He's like, yeah, in Portuguese, it's probably because he just woke up from 300. Like, he's got zingers. He's clever. He's funny. And we see him, like, a lot of people have said that he's really funny and he's got a really good personality. So here's my proposal. Ready? I think that Justin, are you? Oh yeah, you went away for a second. So I think this is what the UFC should do, and they shouldn't tell anybody. The UFC should go out and hire the best English instructor on the planet, pay for Alex Pereira to have English lessons with. Oh, we lost Justin, but he's coming back. Okay, I'll fill him in when he comes back. Pay for Alex Pereira to get trained in English for an entire 6 months to whenever his next fight is, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, whatever it is. Train him in English, and then just have him come out fluent in English, or, you know, whatever he's done in those last 6 months, speaking in English, having English interviews, and communicating directly with the fans. And then on top of that, let's say he does that, and then he goes out, gets a nice matchup and nice training camp, and he wins. I think if that happens, I'm super bummed. I'm not sure if Justin can come back for. Oh, there he is. I think he's coming back. So Justin, let me just recap what I said. So basically, after the English lessons, he comes back in 6 or 7 months after secretly learning English, and then just shows up at the presser speaking in full English, doing all his interviews in English, and then gets the victory. Imagine that. Do you agree with me? If we can see his personality shine and see how funny he is, do you think this is the first chance that we've ever had to eclipse Conor McGregor?
I don't think he's at the Conor McGregor status yet. All right. I think that's a great way to get in there. But here's the thing, the difference between him and Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was self-built. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Conor McGregor, when he was fighting Dennis Seaver, when he was fighting Chad Mendez, he's calling his shots. It wasn't one fighter. Now, Alex Pereira on the other side, you take the feud, you take the history, and you take the storyline. It's not a storyline, but I'm going to call it a storyline between him and Adesanya out. Adesanya catapulted this storyline between him and Adesanya. This history between him and Adesanya is what got him into star status. Without Adesanya, it might be a slower road to the top, because they had this history together. It shot him into the stratosphere. You look at Conor McGregor, there was no Adesanya for him. I guess you could call Khabib his Adesanya, but how many other incredible fights did he win prior? He beat Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, Eddie Alvarez. You know, he didn't have that one storyline that got him into. He was already a star before the Khabib fight. The Khabib fight really shot him into the stratosphere. But Alex came on. I can't even name one fight before he fought Adesanya, and I know he had a couple fights before, but I can't name one. Now before Conor. That's right. Yeah, he did knock out Sean Strickland. But, you know, but nothing jumps out at me. When I think of Conor McGregor before his stardom, I think of Jose Aldo. I think of the buildup. I think of, you know, Nate Diaz, the 2 fights of Nate Diaz. I can't put him on the same level just yet. Just yet.
That totally makes sense. But do you think if he came back being fluent in English and just lit people up at the presser, or not even lit people up, was just like they're expecting the translator?
Was competitive. And
And then imagine the translator's about to start and he's like, wait. And then he's like, actually, I learned English. And then imagine if he just said, I just want to say I learned English let's go, everybody. And then the crowd would just fucking erupt.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry, I curse. I know I try not to curse, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that'd be so exciting. And I think just like if the UFC queued it up, if they're hearing this or whatever, I think if they built it up that way and just released, oh my God, now he can actually communicate and he goes out and gets the win. Holy smokes. I think that, so I agree now, not on the same level, but I think that could be the thing that could take him over the edge.
It definitely could be the step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. So just a lot of fun options, fun stuff to think about. We'll see what happens. Very, very exciting stuff. I'm going to post some comments and then we're going to close out pretty soon. So Pern says, Pereira is so good at distance and still very fast at 205. Yes, he is very fast at 205. You know, Khalil Roundtree was faster than him, which was crazy. I wasn't really expecting that. I don't know if you were, but Khalil Roundtree is so fast. But Alex Pereira wasn't much slower than him. And then Pern says, my mom might know who Conor is. Pereira, not quite there yet. Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying yet. I do think it's important. I think the UFC and other fighters should really, really, really think about Diego Lopez. They should start investing in teaching all their fighters English. I'm actually very surprised that they don't have a protocol in place to do so. You know, finding the absolute best English tutors and teachers in the world, creating a program and sending them through that. I mean, I don't, maybe they are trying to build something like that, but I would hope they would do that. Anyways, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of exciting options. UFC is on fire. There's our show. Can't wait for 308. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for joining. We will be back on Monday to keep the conversation going. We do have a UFC fight night this weekend. We didn't really talk about it, but we will talk about the results if there are some really good outcomes from UFC fight night this Saturday, but we cannot wait for UFC 308. Celine says, amazing. Like always, have a wonderful weekend. Love you. Thank you, Celine, for joining as well. We appreciate it. And just like that, we will see you guys next time. Take it easy.